We are once again find ourselves at war. Eretz Yisrael is fighting a war, and our hearts and thoughts and prayers are with our Chayalim and Achinu Kol Beis Yisrael Hanesunim Batzara. In Parshat Pinchas, towards the end of the parsha, we start dealing with karbanos. And we go through the karbanos of the Tamid, what we brought every day, and we get into Shabbos, Rosh Chodesh, the Yom Tovim, and we come to Sukkos. Sukkos, we brought tons of karbanos. We bring 70 bulls, and we bring 98 lambs, kvasim. But something's interesting here. The parim, every day decrease. We start with 13 on day number 1, and they decrease through day number 7. 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8. A total of 70. The lambs, constant, 14 every day, a total of 98. What's the significance here of these numbers, and why are the lambs decreasing? We find something else that's a little peculiar here in these karbanos. Besides these parim and kvasim that were brought, there was a goat offering which is brought as a chatos. And we find that on day 1, 2, and 4, the Torah calls it a se'ir izim echad l'chatos. Se'ir izim is an older goat, as opposed to on day 4, 5, 6, and 7, it just says se'ir. What's the difference? It was a young goat. So why some days we had a se'ir izim? Why some a se'ir? What's the significance? So Rashi clues us in, and he tells us that these 70 parim that were brought were keneged, corresponded to the 70 nations of the world. The kvas and the lamb correspond to the Jewish nation. And as we find ourselves now, the famous a lashon of Chazal compares the Jewish nation as a keves echad, a little shepsela, among 70 za'ivim, 70 wolves ready to attack and attacking. So the kavasim, the pasuk is symbolizing and telling us that the lambs, they'll be steady, they'll be constant, 14. The parim, though, which symbolize the nations of the world, will decrease, will minimize, and eventually be destroyed at the end of time. Why the discrepancy in the se'ir? Se'ir izim and se'ir. So the Vilna Gaon tells us, he says that se'ir izim, this older se'ir, refers to Yishmael. That's the se'ir izim. The se'ir, the regular one, that's Esav. What's the idea here? You see, the 70 nations of the world are like a branch of a tree, lots of branches. When you take a tree, you go down to the root. What's at the root? There are 2 roots. To all the nations of the world come down to 2. That's Esav and Yishmael. 2 roots, 70 nations. If each one, Esav and Yishmael, is a root, that means each one really identifies with 35 nations. So when we're bringing 70 karbanos, 35 will correspond to Esav, 35 for Yishmael. Let's look how the pasuk divides it up. On day 1, there were 13 parim. Day number 2, there were 12. That means we have 25. If on the next, and those 2 days it says se'ir izim, referring to Yishmael. On day number 3, where we brought 11, if that would also be for se'ir izim, that would be Yishmael. That would give Yishmael 36. Wouldn't be even. So the pasuk skips a day and tells us on day number 4, where there were 10 parim brought, that was corresponded to the se'ir izim to Yishmael. So we have 35 for Yishmael, 35 for Esav. Beautiful guy. What does this mean for us? How is this negeh for us? Yishmael and Esav represent not only our physical antagonists, our physical adversaries, our enemies, but our spiritual ones as well. Those are negative traits, the negative influences in the world. The sherish of all the negativity in the world come down to 2 things. That's gaiva and taiva. Gaiva is haughtiness, taiva is that desire. Yishmael represents taiva, Esav represents gaiva. The 2 roots. How do we fight that? Listen to this, Rabbi Isai. Esav, I'll start with Yishmael. Yishmael is a lashon of shmiya. They hear. They have a power to listen. But they use that power and listen to their evil urge, to their Yetzer Hara, and they're filled with taiva. Esav is a lashon of asiyah, of doing. And they use that ability to do. And they use that to forcibly coerce others to doing what they want. How do we combat that? That's through nasa and nishma. We use our power of asiyah. We use our power of shmiya, of listening, and we direct that towards the Rabbanei Shalom, towards good things. So as we read this parsha this week, and we're going to reading through the Karbanos, saying, oh, this is a time for us to pay special attention. As we read the Karbanos, and we daven not just for the destruction of our physical adversaries, but we daven for the destruction and our ability to conquer our own negative traits as we strengthen ourselves and say Nasa v'nishma.